The brain. 3 pounds, 100 billion neurons, 100,000 miles of blood vessels. The brain is truly one of nature's wonders. However, this year, hundreds of thousands of athletes will put the safety of their brains on the line. From the pee-wee playing fields to the professional ranks, the concussion has been rampant in athletics across the country. From a local perspective, the Inland Empire has been ravaged by sports concussions. Local athletes have suffered concussions, one even resulting in the death of an athlete.
Hi, my name is Austin Fox. I suffered 3 concussions during the football season, and I continue to have symptoms to this day.
My name is Dave Martinez. Last year, I had a concussion, and ever since that, I had struggled with symptoms.
My name is Gina Drake, and my son Joshua suffered 2 concussions in his 9th grade year at North High School.
My name is Josh Drake. I played high school baseball for 2 years and suffered several concussions and still deal with symptoms to this day.
My name is Mark Gonzalez, and I'm a high school football coach at Poly High School, and I've had several players suffer concussions this year.
My name is Hugo Aguirre, and I played football in New Mexico, and I incurred roughly 5-6 head concussions. And that was the end of my career.
Hi, my name is Dr. Chris Marker. I'm the director of the Sports Concussion Clinic here in Riverside, California.
We set out to interview those individuals in our region whose lives have forever been altered or affected by the injury known as the concussion. Welcome, my name is Angel Viscarra, and I'm here today with John W. North High School football player Austin Fox. Austin suffered several concussion injuries over the past football season, and he's here today to let us know how the whole recovery process has gone for him. So Austin, first off, I want to thank you for taking some time out of your schedule, and we want to ask, how has the whole recovery gone for you since you've suffered your concussions?
Well, actually, lately, just basic little stuff, little random headaches, stuff like that. But right as it happened, I got real dizzy, loss of vision for like about 45 minutes. It was like pitch black.
Lightheadedness in the morning, and I was very sensitive to light.
In the original concussion, he was sleeping a lot and felt dizzy when he got up.
I had headaches. I had my seizures. I had a lot of seizures.
He was paled. He was white. He wasn't breathing.
You've been playing football for quite some time now.
Yeah.
What kind of a job have your previous coaches done in, preventing concussions and making sure their players' brains are safe?
Well, actually, it depends because, as people say, old school coaches, they'll be like, no, get out there, don't be a baby, or something like that. And some coaches will be like, okay, take time off, get healthy, so you can come back for the next game or the game after that. So it kind of depends on the coach.
All coaches, they try and keep us safe in the field. They all care about us, They treat us like kids, like family,
If the doctor puts a player, with restrictions, they need to respect that. Because in David's case, he was with a doctor restriction and he was playing. That's when the second seizure came in.
As long as we're strapping on the pads, concussions are going to happen. But they can be limited by educating not only the student athletes, but also the coaches themselves. A lot of our coaches today that we see out coaching aren't certified. They need to have an education, a background in sports, kinesiology, or some kind of athletic training.
My coaches just asked me if I was okay, and I didn't necessarily know I had a concussion at the time. And I thought since I had the catcher's mask on that it would be fine, so they told me to get back out there.
If there's any issue whatsoever that the player might be concussed, we'll immediately take him to the trainer, and the trainer will do an evaluation. If it's during a practice where there is no trainer, we can do an examination also. We're not experts, and so if there's any doubt whatsoever, we'll take him out and we'll send him to the hospital immediately.
Concussions are a loose issue. Do you think a concussion should be addressed in that manner, or do you think it deserves more serious attention?
No, concussions really can affect your future, especially it's your brain. You don't get another one.
The likelihood that they are going to be a professional athlete is pretty slim. If they do become a professional athlete, they will still have to use their brain in order to manage their money and their life.
As
being a high school athlete, every game's so important to you, so you never want to leave the field to play, and you feel like every high school football game is the Super Bowl. So it's very hard to convey to them that, hey, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to need your brain, you're going to want to go to college, you're going to want to be a part of the workforce. But that's also something that I stress with all my visits, that this is going to be just a part of your life, but you're most likely not going to go on to have a professional sports career, and you're going to need your brain to do some great things down the line.
Sports is a stepping stone, it's a foundation, it's a discipline, and it's going to get you places. But in the long run, understand the statistics. The jobs that are open for professional athletes is very slim. You're better off going to school and studying to be a doctor and a lawyer than it is to be a professional athlete.
Have you personally ever played with a concussion?
Yes, I have.
And do you regret that
I
decision?
played the whole season with concussions.
And you regret that decision?
Yeah. I can tell there's some damage.
I told my mom I think I can play through it, but overall, I felt the symptoms, and that's when I was like, I was done.
I know for a fact in high school I had several concussions. And I was told that I had concussions from coaches, but it wasn't diagnosed by anyone in the health fields. And back then it was just considered a hard hit.
Back in the day, it was considered what they call a stinger, or it was something where you got hit in the head, you got your bell rung, that kind of thing. But coaches, shake it off, get back up, because they did not know any better, and I didn't know any better. So as an athlete, I would want to go out there and play just like any other kid would want to play football. You want to show your toughness. That's what football's all about, right? Being tough, strong, and so that all being what it is, it's kind of a formula for bad things to happen.
Some scary stuff, obviously. Has this past season discouraged you from pursuing a football career?
Absolutely not. I see football as like a love. I can't get over it. I love it so much, I'm not going to stop.
My mom especially, she wants me to stick with soccer, but I told her, I want to play football.
I didn't know. I kind of blame myself for supporting him as a parent, but seeing him like that, it's not worth it.
To get some insight from a medical viewpoint, I took a trip to the sports clinic in downtown Riverside to speak with Dr. Christopher Marker, who is the director of the concussion clinic. Can you list for us some of the most common symptoms that you see when an athlete comes in injured from a concussion?
Sure. So the most common symptom I see is usually headaches, and that's usually the symptom that hangs around the longest. Some other symptoms that we'll commonly see are balance issues, dizziness, visual problems, seeing blurry vision, seeing spots or stars. They can have nausea or vomiting. Bright light will bother them sometimes. Loud noise will be bothersome to them. They'll also experience some numbness and tingling on occasion. They have fogginess, mental fogginess. Could be slowed down cognitively, issues with memory and concentration. And then sometimes we'll even see emotional issues where the athlete, you get a big 6-foot guy crying on the sidelines. If the frontal portion of the brain, the frontal lobe's affected, that can affect the emotional state. So we'll see sometimes irritability, they're nervous, they're more emotional. And then lastly, we'll see disturbances in their sleep where they're either sleeping too much, not sleeping enough, having trouble falling asleep, and then be fatigued during the day. So that's pretty much the gamut of the symptoms that I'll see, but the most common one is headaches. We know that with each successive concussion, their risk of getting another concussion goes way up. So if you're a high school senior and you're never going to play football again, and it was the last game of the season, and you're not going to play contact sports, and your risk of getting a concussion is relatively low, a car accident, some freak accident. But if I have a kid who's a sophomore and he's going to want to play football for the next few years, then his risk of having a concussion goes way up. So you have to factor all of these things in. The long-term risks, some of the things that we're seeing now is risk for depression, and you can see in the news there's some athletes, pro athletes that have committed suicide or have had episodes where they're just cognitively not functioning the way they used to.
Here at the sports clinic, how frequently are you receiving patients with concussions?
I see them all year round. It's certainly a little bit cyclical in that during football season we see the most. But there's still a lot of high school soccer players. I see a lot of female soccer players. I've seen cheerleaders, volleyball players. You name the sport, I've seen a concussion with it. So on a daily basis, we're seeing some kids with concussions. Well, on the field of play, it should be hopefully an athletic trainer on the sideline. I think that's something we have to work towards, is making sure that there's an athletic trainer on the sideline so they can be intermediary, because sometimes the coach will want the kid to keep playing, and hopefully the athletic trainer has some training in concussion and can remove the kid from the field to play. The onus can't be all on the kid, because if the kid's having cognitive issues, he's not going to know, or she won't know that they're concussed. But certainly, I always stress, I go over the symptoms checklist with my athletes all the time so that's ingrained in them, and I tell them, in the future, if you're on the field to play and you develop any headaches, balance problems, dizziness, make sure you get off the field. Because what we know now is once the process is started, say in the first quarter they've started this concussion process, the more hits they take, the longer the recovery period is. So if you remove them from the field to play, they usually do a lot better than the kids who have repeated hits. Certainly there needs to be education with the coaches. As I mentioned earlier, I think a lot of the coaches are still old school mentality, and they have a lot of pressure to win, so sometimes they're torn on whether or not the kid is concussed. So that's why I would leave it up to an athletic trainer, and I'd really advocate to have an athletic trainer at all high school games.
This past August, adversity struck Arlington High School. Junior football player Tyler Llewellyn suffered a head injury in a preseason scrimmage. When Llewellyn went to the sideline, he lost consciousness and never regained it. He was pronounced clinically dead just 5 days later.
Well, I think everybody in the community was pretty crushed that one of our local athletes was not only injured but passed away. We expect to see some injuries in football, but you never anticipate a tragedy like this.
The scary thing about the death of Tyler Llewellyn was the fact that it was on a routine play where he made a routine tackle, and for some way he got hit in such a way that it caused him great, head injury, and eventually passed. Sort of surprising, sort of not. I know concussions and brain injuries are really serious, and it just kind of makes you think, like, it could have been me, or could it be the guy next to me.
I was sickened by his tragedy because it really hit home after having a son who had 2 concussions, and realizing that could have been me. I was in the same position as mom. I was lucky my son didn't die from a head injury.
My condolences go out to the family, to those who were affected by the loss of Tyler, but also my condolences went out to Coach McCarthy. He's a personal friend of mine, and I made sure that when I saw him, when we played him, that I was able to walk up to him and give him my condolences for the tragic loss.
His mother, Tina, agreed to speak with us about her son and her viewpoint on the concussion epidemic taking the nation by storm.
I think it's very important for them to be aware that helmet is not does not make them immortal. It's not. It's only there to prevent minor injuries. It does not keep the brain itself from being smacked back and forth inside the skull, and that's what causes most of these injuries.
Yeah, and what advice do you have for mothers out there who may fear for the safety of their children's brains whenever their child competes?
I don't really have any advice for them. I know that they just need to be aware. I supported my son in sports. A lot of the mothers that I know on the team allowed their kids to go back out there on the field even after what happened with Tyler. And I support them in their decision because, again, the awareness is what's important. Knowing that these injuries can happen. I told my son I didn't really want him to play football. I never dreamed that it would come to this extent, but I was worried about injuries. I was worried about knee injuries, shoulder injuries, things that would just, possibly cause him difficulties in the future. I expressed my concerns and told my son I didn't really want him to play football, but it's what he wanted. He gained a lot from the sport. There's a lot of camaraderie. There is a lot to be learned from the team, from the sport itself. And again, I know that it seems like you called it an epidemic. It's really not an epidemic. it's just getting a lot more attention than it was getting before.
Contact sports such as football have and always will be at the heart of American culture. Collisions will continue to headline highlight reels and sell tickets. While hard-hitting sports are the craze of the modern day, we must remember that the athletes that we watch can only undergo so much physical punishment before suffering severe, permanent damage. With proper concussion education and supervision over our, especially younger athletes, we can limit the toll of injuries triggered by the concussion. While we have compensated for players of the past, we must look forward and prevent the injury from affecting our athletes of the future. To sum it all up, we must learn to play smarter, not harder.